guys. Hey, thanks for coming back out to my channel. I know it's been a long time since we talked about my 30-day challenge, and we're probably through that 30-day challenge, but I wanted to come back and tell you what happened, and so that you can better understand how complex some of the issues are and what you can really accomplish with Chinese medicine. Okay, so let's get started. In Chinese medicine, they talk about 5 elements, or the 5 lights of illumination. And if you go through my channel, you will find a video that specifically talks to these 5 elements. And these are the 5 yin elements in Chinese medicine. And they're called the lights of illumination because that's how we keep our lights on. And so let's talk a little bit about this. So let's go from the start. In the concept of 5 elements, 5 lights of illumination, there is a theory on how energy moves through the body. And I always say, let's start with the heart, then let's look at the spleen, then let's look at the lungs, the kidneys, the liver. These lay out on a circle. They're always in this order. And one of the key energy flows is called the supportive cycle, which is one element to the next. So the heart to the spleen to the lungs to the kidneys to the liver to the heart. And what they say is that the heart supports the spleen supports the lung supports the kidney supports the liver supports the heart. Energy, this is just one way that energy can flow in Chinese medicine. So the heart is the mother of the spleen, and the spleen is the son of the heart. When we look at what happened in my pathology, and why I really wanted to talk some more about this is because this is so common in our society today. And it becomes super complex when it gets to the point where it got with me. So what happens initially is that people get heartburn, acid indigestion, stomach upset, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. They get some sort of digestive issue. And and this is just a guess from what I'm seeing in the office. And I'm thinking about 30 to 40% of these people will go into their doctor and ask for something for their heartburn or indigestion because it has gotten so severe. And the most common thing that's prescribed is Prilosec, omeprazole. It's over the counter, not a big deal. You could even get it without going to your doctor. Now, some people are treating their heartburn with Tums or with Pepto-Bismol or with some other lower level antacid to help with the heartburn. But it starts out in the stomach. And in Chinese medicine, there's pathology starts at the qi level and goes deeper from there. And so by the time you're at the omeprazole and the Prilosec, you're in what they would usually call damp heat, which is a lot of damage to the stomach. And instead of turning around and looking at what's happening and what's causing the problems, we go boldly forward. And I can tell you, I'm one of those that just went boldly forward. Again, I was a foodie. I'm still a foodie who can't eat food anymore, but I am still a foodie, and I still wanted to go out to all these restaurants. I still wanted to eat great food, so I went boldly forward, and I really didn't get a lot of heartburn. What I would get is the bloating, and that was pretty much my biggest deal was bloating. So, I ignored all of those signs and I kept on moving forward, kept on eating what I was eating, didn't change my diet. And then if we go back to the chart, so we can see if we put an X here where the stomach is, we're starting to block energy flow there. And so let's talk about another method of how energy flows, and this is a controlling cycle. And in this cycle, the yin organ skips the first organ and goes to the second organ and controls that. So what it does is it offers balance to the second organ. And so for the liver, it skips the heart and controls the stomach spleen. So we have energy blocked here at the stomach and spleen area. And so two things are happening. Energy from the heart is getting backed up, and energy from the liver to control the stomach and spleen is getting taxed and causing other issues. And it starts to back up into the liver and gallbladder area. And the next thing you know is you have gallbladder signs. Now the good thing about this is the gallbladder's at the chi level, the liver's at the yin level. If you're going to get disease, let's keep it at the chi level because that's the less severe. So it starts at the gallbladder level, and that can go on for quite some time until you have gallstones. Now, if it's just a straight gallstone, you're not going to progress past that. And in Western medicine, the solution is to remove the gallbladder because that does get rid of the pain, but it doesn't get rid of the problem, right? So we didn't get rid of the problem when we were having acid indigestion, heartburn, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. We didn't do anything to get rid of the problem there, and we might have jumped to Tums, Pepto-Bismol, Prilosec, omeprazole. We might have jumped to something in Western medicine that allowed the symptoms to be masked. And so the damp heat starts getting more and more severe in the stomach, and it has to overflow and back up into the liver channel or the heart channel, and it'll come out as in a couple ways. It can come out as anxiety. Suddenly you start dealing with anxiety as it backs up to the heart channel, but as it backs up into the liver channel, it's going to be the liver and gallbladder issues, and hopefully just gallbladder issues. So the next step in Western medicine would be to remove the gallbladder. And that can get rid of the pain, but it might not. And that was the problem for me. When I heard the diagnosis and the doctors and I were talking, you know, we're all pretty much in agreement that this wasn't a traditional presentation, and there wasn't a guarantee that by removing my gallbladder, it would get rid of the pain. And that's where I really had to think what was going on here and how am I going to treat this? And I got super lucky because they were able to get the pain under control, and because it wasn't causing jaundice or because it wasn't blocking anything, I had the opportunity to decide when I was going to get the surgery. And so I had the opportunity to try and find an answer. And so I took it, and it really wasn't the easiest answer for me to find. So now if we look at the 5 yin organs again, we can see that the stomach and spleen has been backing up, and it's been getting more severe. And as that backed up, the energy flow from the other yin organs was backed up and had to back up someplace, and it backs up first to the gallbladder. And here you end up with gallstones or some other gallbladder issue. And the solution in Western medicine is to remove the gallbladder. But we're still not addressing any of the causes for this. We're just saying, here's a symptom, it's pretty uncomfortable, let's get rid of it. And that's what they do, is they get rid of it. So now you have the stomach spleen is still doing its thing. It's still backing up. The gallbladder is now no longer able to give you an early warning sign. And I really considered the gallbladder an early warning sign because immediately after you ate something that was crap, you would be in pain. So for me, that was really an early warning sign. But I also knew that wasn't the only warning sign. I knew that my pain wasn't completely caused by the gallbladder. And I knew the pain that brought me into the emergency room was not off the gallbladder. So I had to really think through, because that pain radiated from the front to the back, right in the middle of my chest, from my abdomen to the back, right below the sternum. And that is not traditional gallbladder pain. And I really wanted to figure out what that was, because I figured that was going to stay around if I removed the gallbladder, especially if the cause of it wasn't the gallbladder. And so if we look at the chart again, we can see that the spleen's, the stomach's backed up, and now the gallbladder's backed up, and it's blocking energy movement. And the key energy movement that it's blocking in the upper jiao, or the upper portion of the body, is the heart. And so the pain that was happening for me in Chinese medicine would be identified as heart qi stagnation. And that started to make sense, because I was starting to see some heart signs on me. They weren't serious, but they were there. And yet, when I went in for my physicals and that, everything looked fine. The EKG looked great. So there was nothing in Western medicine that said I was having heart symptoms. And yet in Chinese medicine, there were symptoms there. And that specific pain was heart qi stagnation. So what I did was I did 2 formulas. The first one was damp heat in the liver gallbladder for gallstones, specifically for gallstones. And then the second one was for stasis in the heart channel. And I took those for a month, and that worked really well. It didn't change the fact that I was dealing with food sensitivities. So I'm still dealing with fat issues, but I was really dealing with food sensitivities to the point where I couldn't eat certain foods anymore. And you remember that allergy test that I took for food sensitivities, the one that I sent in through the mail to get? Wow, that really worked. As long as I stay away from everything on there, that pain that I relate to the heart qi stagnation, I don't get that. But I can go and now just eat 2 bites of whole wheat bread, and I start to get that pain again. So I think, that goes back to talking about what food sensitivities are. And food sensitivities are the inability, or your body no longer has enough resources to produce the appropriate enzymes to break down whatever crap it is you're eating. And at some point in time, maybe you can get that back if you're really good to yourself and you do a lot to rebuild your different pathways. I don't really know. It's something that I'm going to have to figure out over, the rest of my life. And the other aspect about food sensitivities is when you're eating food that you're sensitive to every day, the amount of inflammation and discomfort that you're having is so pervasive that you don't really notice it. It was when I stopped eating all of this stuff that I noticed that it actually did cause a lot of pain in the body. It actually caused a lot of discomfort. I was tired all the time. I was groggy. I was irritable. There was all sorts of things that it was causing because I was sick. Sick of food, I guess. But when I stopped that, after about 3 weeks, now if I just touch the stuff, I know within an hour or so, and I don't even have to touch much of it. So that's, that's a bummer, and then it's good all at the same time, because at least your body tells you that this isn't working for you and you have an opportunity to change it if you want. So that's where I ended up so far with the 30-day challenge. So going forward, what does this mean? I started out with formulas for damp heat in the liver gallbladder, and I couldn't just do that because this problem was more complex and it incorporated 3 specific areas: the gallbladder, the stomach, and the heart. I had to combine a formula. So I had to first combine the gallbladder and the heart channel. And so it was a damp heat formula for the gallbladder, and it was a stasis channel formula for the heart part of it. And you'll notice when I say that the heart and the gallbladder were the last of it. The first of it was the stomach. Yet what I found and what I've seen in clinic is that until you can address the gallbladder and the heart, you can't get to the stomach. And here's the other aspect of it. You can't just treat one of them. You have to at least at a minimum treat 2 of them. So if we've gotten past the point where the pain's gone and you're not getting that shooting heart channel pain that feels like somebody grabbed a knife and stabbed you, then you can do the gallbladder and the stomach. And the stomach formulas are, you would think they would be damp heat formulas, but they haven't been. They've all been tonifying formulas. And even for my people in clinic, they've all been tonifying formulas. I've stuck with the damp heat formulas for the gallbladder, but I've done tonifying formulas on the stomach. And I thought that was really interesting, since the origination of this was damp heat in the stomach channel. And so for me, I did the heart and the gallbladder formula for about a month, and my tongue still showed that I had gallstones. So I still had to stick with a gallbladder formula. But let me tell you, damp heat formulas are bitter cold, and there's all sorts of things that happen with bitter cold formulas when you take them too far in your body. So after a month, I was way beyond doing bitter cold formulas for the gallbladder, and I had to switch to a tonifying formula for gallstones, and also a tonifying formula for the spleen and stomach. Both of them were warming. And I switched to that. I can tell you the first time I took it, I thought I was drinking poison. It just tasted horrible, but it corrected so many issues that I was having. And, by the second or third time that I took it, it tasted really good. And that's one thing about Chinese herbal formulas is, in general, they all taste like crap. And if you think it tastes good, you really need it, because really it tastes like crap. So I'm doing a tonifying formula for the gallbladder, for the gallstones, and for the stomach. And I'm not really sure how long that's going to take. But I can tell you that we probably should talk a little bit about what happens if we what would have happened if I just stayed with a Western medicine approach. What would have been the next thing that would have happened? Because let's be real, the key root cause of what started this whole piece of nonsense was food and food sensitivities. And let's be real, most of the time we don't really know what we're eating anyways, because we thought we had great labeling, but we really don't. And what I really find bizarre is that I pretty much just avoid packaged foods now, because I don't think their labeling is accurate, and there's nothing that I can point to that says that I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. But I can tell you, if I go make my own granola, I'm fine. But if I get it in a package and it says USA organic on it, it will cause me all sorts of problems. So, either it's the binders on how they make the granola, it's something that they have in there that doesn't work for me. And even now, this is really tragic. Even now, some of the cuts of meat in the grocery store, I pretty much can't do that simply because of all the antibiotics, all the growth hormones, and the type of feed that they're giving them. Like right now, prime beef, what's the key type of corn that they use to feed them? It's the byproduct of ethanol, which is super, super sugary. And, if we do a lot of sugar for long periods of time with really, really aggressive sugar, it creates diabetes for us. And it seems to do something for cows too. But who knows? We butcher cows at 2 years old. Who knows what would happen if they were 6? Okay, so let's talk about where this progresses. What's the next step? What do people have to look forward to if they don't change actually their food? So going forward, this is the one that I've found to be the most interesting, because what happens at the end of all of this? So let's say we didn't address this when we had stomach problems. And instead of that, we took omeprazole, Prilosec, Tums, or whatever it was to get rid of the symptoms of heartburn, acid indigestion, gas, and bloating. And then it progressed to the next stage of gallbladder issues. And instead of addressing it at that time, let's say we did the same thing, we ignored it and we had our gallbladder removed instead. I really think the gallbladder is the canary in the coal mine, because anytime you do something wrong, after you hit the point where I hit, anytime you do something wrong, it immediately tells you that you are bad and you need to change your ways. So for me, I really had to think if I was going to remove my gallbladder. And thank you, Chief of Surgeon, that night in emergency, because if she wasn't there, if she didn't say that I had the opportunity to think this through, I was in it to win it. I was 100% remove my gallbladder right now. That is seriously painful. I am not having any fun. Remove it. And because she did that, it gave me some time to think about what was going on. And here's the thing. I didn't think it was 100% a gallbladder issue. And why that's important is that I've been in clinic for quite some time now, and one of the things I realized is that Chinese medicine, it's crazy, but the theory works. And when the theory says that's not the answer, that's not the only answer, then the theory's right. So if I would have removed my gallbladder, there was a good chance that it wasn't going to get rid of the pain, because that wasn't the only thing that was causing pain. Fats were not the only thing that was causing me pain. Foods that I was sensitive to were causing a lot of pain. And so this consistent eating foods that I was sensitive to, what that means in Chinese, or not, what that means for you is foods that you're sensitive to, your body does not have the resources to produce the enzymes to break those foods down. That makes sense. We're getting older. There's a lot of things that we don't have the resources for anymore. So that Inability to process certain foods, that is not too unheard of. So the next thing that happens is you're going to start getting heart signs, right? Because the heart channel's getting blocked. It's not getting blocked 24/7, but it's getting blocked sometimes. And so one of the big things that will happen is high blood pressure or heart palpitations, anxiety, insane anxiety as it gets worse. And then you might see things like high cholesterol. You might have to go on high blood pressure because the high blood pressure is consistent. Now, here's one of the things that I found out, because I would get this weird intermittent high blood pressure, and I was really aware of it because it would cause headaches, and headaches like my head was going to blow up. What I found off of that food sensitivity test that I took is there were two synthetics that are used in like preservatives or something in packaged foods, and especially in Doritos. Yay. And when I eat those, within about 12 hours, it will cause high blood pressure for me. And high blood pressure for me is going to be about 140/90. But that's enough to cause this headache that feels like my head's going to explode. And it happens every time. So, your high blood pressure could just be your foods. And so you start getting your heart symptoms. But if we look at this 5-element chart again, we can see that we know the spleen, we know the stomach channel, that energy pathway is blocked. We know that we're blocking the gallbladder channel. And removing the gallbladder just means that now bile has to be produced by the liver as needed, and we also know the liver can't do that. So it would behoove you to take some sort of gallbladder supplement. But what happens here is now you can see that the energy from the kidney, it could go up to the liver, but it could get blocked there. And so then what happens? A real common one is kidney stones. It could be as long as 10 years later. It could be sooner. But kidney stones are really the next best thing to be in there. And in Chinese medicine, diabetes is caused by weakness in the spleen and kidney channel. In general, that's the key causes of diabetes. So by the time you're getting to kidney stones, or if you're showing any kidney signs, any kidney issues, that's the time when you're not too far away from getting diabetes. And so then you get diabetes. And through this whole thing, especially if it's food sensitivities, I hear so many people who are over 50 say they can't lose weight. Yeah, you can't lose weight if you're eating foods that cause you to turn into an inflammation nightmare. You can't. Again, the last week of this whole process, the last week before I went into ER, I was freaking out because I gained 5 pounds in water weight. I was beyond blueberry status. I was just packing on inflammation like it was a job. So, you get this swollen blueberry poofy look and you can't lose weight. But why you can't lose weight is because there's so many foods that you're eating that you are sensitive to that is causing this inflammation, that even cutting out 1 or 2 of them, it's just not enough. And I would never have been able to figure it out without that food sensitivity test. And of course, I would have never been able to change any of this without using Chinese medicine and without using herbs. So now let's say you have diabetes. But through this whole process, that heart channel is getting more and more blocked. And you might have to go in for having stents put in because the arteries are getting full of cholesterol, or they're getting blocked. Or you might have an event where blood flow to a certain area of the heart causes a heart attack because it's not getting through. And you might start going into congestive heart failure. And here's the thing that was really interesting is I had people in clinic that were in congestive heart failure, and yet from a Chinese medicine perspective, they did not have enough heart signs to be there. And so their heart actually was strong, but they were in this whole scenario that I'm talking about, this whole scenario of foods and how we feed our population. And I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, how we decided to start feeding our population happened in the 70s with Nixon and with the USDA, when food prices started going through the roof. And as you know, our population was expanding, they had to figure out a way to bring affordable foods to the table. And that way was through corn and soybeans. I mean, they had researched so many things. That's when all the algae and that were being researched. But it was, how do you bring proteins to the American populace, to the US populace at a reasonable price? And so that started our whole campaign with food, where they started putting in price supports for corn and soybeans, because you could produce a lot of that cheaply, and you can make all sorts of weird foods out of those two things. So now we have a grocery store of corn syrup and soybeans, and and it's called all sorts of things, from cheese to meat to whatever. But that whole policy started back in the 70s, and that policy has just expanded from there, because from that policy, the overall goal of our food programs has been to ensure that we are able to produce food, mass quantities of food, inexpensively for the market. And that's why you can buy, a frozen dinner, 5 frozen dinners for $5, and just to get the meat to make hamburgers for dinner costs you $5. So real foods was not what was given price supports. And so our vegetables are super expensive right now. Quality meats are super expensive right now. And that was just a decision that we made because people couldn't afford to eat back in the 70s, when everything went and skyrocketed. But the ramifications, if you have the opportunity to change it, it's up to you, because it's your body. You don't have to change this. The thing is by the time you're doing the spleen and gallbladder, before it's really become a heart issue, before you have kidney issues, before you have diabetes, before you have congestive heart failure, when it was just the stomach and the gallbladder, you were already starting to gain weight, and you were starting to gain weight uncontrollably. And there was nothing you could do to get rid of it. For me, that always was a rub. I couldn't figure out why my whole life I had no problems with weight, and then one day I woke up and there was nothing I could do to get rid of the weight. And it really is about food sensitivities. In office, anybody who identifies what they're sensitive to and starts cutting it out, the inflammation goes away right away. But here's the rub with that. I'm going to bet on that list is going to be some of your favorite foods. And it's just up to you if you're willing to give them up or not. Besides the food sensitivities, though, there's going to be other things that are going to cause problems. And that's just about how we're processing foods and, you know, what we really need to put on our labels so that people know what they're eating. I mean, it'd help me out if they were a little bit more accurate with what they were putting in our fake foods. But they don't. So now my whole thing is if it comes in a package, I pretty much can't eat it. It has to be as close to nature as possible. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's not, by the time it's at the gallbladder stage, it's not easy to treat. You know, I went for a month on the gallbladder and heart formulas. I still had gallbladder signs. I still have gallbladder issues. Now I'm on my first week of doing tonifying formulas. I feel better. But I can tell you the food sensitivity thing, boy, that is a real bear. And here's the thing, is I know all about this. I know that I'm not supposed to eat these things, and you're just going to be out and about and you're going to forget. And, you know, I was out and about with my niece and we were watching her volleyball tournament. I was super hungry, so we went to a vegan restaurant, mind you, a vegan restaurant. I got vegetables and they had toast with it. It was whole wheat toast because, right, that's the most healthy for you. I wasn't thinking, and I took 2-3 bites of it and I was like, oh, hold it, I'm not supposed to eat this. Sure enough, within an hour I started getting that hideous stabbing stomach pain that goes from front to back right below my sternum. So, you know, so it's not going to be a one and done. You're going to forget. You're going to be going through life doing your thing, and you're going to stumble, and then you're going to be out and you're going to be starving and you're going to have to get something to eat, and you're going to go look at the 7-Eleven and look at every packaged food in there and say, oh, I think I can eat this, and you're going to be wrong. And not all the time, but when you are, you're really going to hate it. So I don't know, that's where I ended up, and I hope this helps you. It is an option. It is an option if you have a chance to make a decision, if you don't have to go into surgery because it's blocking, causing jaundice and all sorts of other hideous things. Trying to correct it might be a really, really good option because the long-term health consequences for you are going to be huge. We aren't fat because we want to be. We're fat because we can go, because of what's in front of us to eat, and because no one's telling us when we're going in for heartburn that you might want to check, do you really want to go this route because here's your progression, or do you want to figure out which foods are not working for you? I wonder what people would choose if that was their option. I don't know. And seriously, I don't know if I'm going to win on this either. I mean, everything looks good right now, but I'm getting older. You know, I might lose later on. Who knows? But right now it's looking good. Okay, so thanks, you guys. I hope this helps you. I hope this helps you understand that chronic heartburn is a problem, and that it's a really big problem when that chronic heartburn turns into pain or pressure on the right-hand side of your abdomen, because then you're in the same phase that I was, which is the stomach and gallbladder. Okay, until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.